Alright, what you see here is a Hampton Bay Quick Connect ceiling fan. This is the second one out of two that I got from the diner that I've been going to since I was a toddler. This is the one that was further back out of two of them, and from what people have mentioned and from what I've noticed, ran faster out of two of them. After hanging it up, I'm noticing it seems to have the same bearing issue as the other one where it has a hissy sound, but the bearings in this one are definitely less stiff compared to the other one. But yeah. So yeah, this is the one that was closer to the kitchen. I mean, it was basically right where the kitchen portion of the diner was. Cause you walk in, it's the entryway, tables and booths and such is where the first one was, and going towards the back where this one was, there was more booths, but it wasn't tables around it. It was more so like the, not like a bar stool, but like it's like the counter and such that you see like in diners where you sit at the counter and the kitchen's like right behind where the workers are and such when you're ordering. So yeah, but this one surprisingly cleaned up pretty well. The other one cleaned up pretty well, but this one was definitely a little bit more in rough shape in terms of like the grease that got on it and such over the years. Not that much more, but it was definitely more that I had to clean off of this one. The ring around the canopy on the top and the bottom portion yellowed a little bit more in this one, which I'm surprised that I'm not, because the other one was up close, so it got more sunlight hitting it, but this one was also right where the kitchen was, so some ways I feel like this one's yellow, has more yellowed parts to it than the other one, but it depends on like on like the position of it. Like the front side's more yellowed on it, but the back's not as yellowed. But, the blade arms definitely got more yellowed on it. I tried to clear them off as good as I could, but I didn't want to soak the fan and such. The blade surprisingly cleaned up pretty good in the center area, but the tips, not so much. If I tried to scrub them down anymore, I'd be afraid of risking damaging the finish on it. So I'm just leaving them the way that you see them, where the tips are more covered in grease from like being used. This one here actually has a bit of paint on it from ceiling paint, so yeah. And I do have all the blades numbered, number 2 on them at the tip. I did that when I took it down along with the other one, when I replaced them with the Make Air Contractor Series ceiling fans, because for the longest time I remember the owner back in 2013, well, the owners from when I was a kid, when they put these up in like late 2007, early 2008. I'm pretty sure it was 2007 they put them up, like in the fall of 2007. And they replaced those 2 home trends, which I do have 2 of them, or the exact ones that they replaced, not the exact model. So that used to be there, but no, the exact models, but not the exact ones that were there. But back in 2015, I remember they were thinking of changing them out because they were looking dirty pretty quickly. But that's also because they're white fans. And I suggested they flip the blades over to the bleached oak side. Now we were going to do that, but then like going into the next year, it just never happened. And then like around 2016 to 2017, they sold it because they wanted to retire to new owners, and they've had a few different owners since, but now the person that's the owner there is actually cousins of my own cousins. So we're not directly related, but we share cousins basically. Like we have our own, he's cousins up with my cousins from my aunt's side, whereas I'm cousins with my cousins from my uncle's side basically. So yeah. And I do remember seeing him at family events as a kid, so it was kind of nice to like reunite and such. So I offered them to make it contractors for these, because he did mention he was thinking of swapping them out at some point, so I figured might as well use those. So yeah, that's how I ended up with this and the other one. Yeah, this one I gotta say though, like looking at it now, like I definitely feel this one cleaned up a little bit better, surprisingly. I'm not too sure. Maybe they ended up cleaning, whoever would clean them back then and such, they'd clean this one more often just because it was closer to the kitchen and such. Probably could have got dirtier quicker, so who knows. But yeah. So this one's from this they say June of 2007, but the UL sticker is actually from January 2007. So I know the SMC fans, they have like the two UL tags, one for SMC and then one is from the actual UL sticker. But yeah, and this one has that little thing on it that could they used to attach Christmas ornaments on them and such, or bats for certain holidays and such. I wasn't able to get it off of this one. I don't want to risk damaging it. The other one I actually kind of want to keep it on with it. Same. This one I was able to keep it on when I was cleaning it, but the other one it just fell apart. So yeah, they never did have the extension pull chains on them, but yeah, I know they used to do that with the home trends hang ornaments. So the front one would have a green one and the back one would have the red ornament and such. But yeah. So let's go ahead and start off on low. And I remember back in 2013 when they suggested that when they were originally thinking of swapping them out, the owners from my childhood, I suggested that they get Farmingtons and brushed nickel. Then that didn't happen, but because they figured that they were just gonna, when I suggested to them that they just swap blades over, they figured that'd be better. But then they figured that, you know, since they're on a lot, they don't really have them off all the time, that it wasn't really worth swapping them out. No, and if they did swap them out back then, I would have gotten them back in 2013. And here we are 10 years later, they're in my possession now. No, I got them back in August of 2022. But yeah, I mean, these were very popular when I was a kid. They're like $40 to $50 depending what Home Depot you went to, and depending what price they had them at the time. These have 157 by 17 millimeter motors in them, so they actually do have a pretty decent sized motor for what it is. Problem is the build quality on them isn't the best. Bearings and the capacitors tend to go out on them sometimes. I'm not sure if that's the case with these ones, but I know the first one out of two has a more stiff motor. But I mean, they were there for like a good 15 years. I mean, used quite a bit. So they definitely did their job. And it is normal for SMC fans to kind of get noisy bearings after a while. But yeah, I'd always sit close to this one out of two of them. More recently, I kind of sit wherever, but back then I always like sitting by the back area where the booths were. That's how I can kind of get a good view of both, and also it's close to the bathroom, but also I just like, that's usually where I'd sit a lot as a kid anyways. But yeah, I know a lot of people were happy to see me get these, and me myself, because I mean, I remember I was like 11 years, I was either 10 going on to 11 or I was already 11 when they put them up. I think, no, I was 10 turning 11, because I was just like entering the 5th grade at the time when they put these up. And the fans that they replaced, the home trends, the person that took them down, he actually took them with him to use in his garage. Fortunately, I wasn't able to get them, but it also happened when I didn't even realize I were planning to change them out. Had I known that, I probably would have asked to have gotten them. But again, I was only like 10 at the time, so I doubt that would have worked out with my mom at the time anyways. Oh yeah, it has a good low speed to it. I'm not sure, I don't think it's going faster than the other one, but it could also be that, because I do remember them saying that in the store. I mean, even the ones I replaced, these, the front one goes slower than the back one, but when I tested them here, that was already the case. But with these, I'm wondering if it is actually a power thing there that causes the front one to go slower a little bit. Because I know that was the case with the home trends. I remember when those were still there and running on high, the front one went a little bit slower than the back one. Now that one could have had a bearing thing too that was more stiff, but I'm not too sure. I mean, with these ones, it wasn't like a big difference. with this one going faster than the other one, but it was definitely a little bit noticeable. But yeah, back in 2008 was like when they discontinued these. So it was kind of bittersweet that these were put up like right when they were being discontinued, basically. I always thought that that diner would have looked cool with Hampton Bay gazebos with the white kids or the gazebo chews. It was kind of had like that seafood restaurant feel to it, like a roast beef seafood type place. Now nowadays it's a different story, but back when these were put up, it had that. I had like the old school wallpaper from like the '90s look and such. Basically like a typical roast beef restaurant from like the '90s. It looked like that at the time when these were put in. I do feel that like had they bought these in the iron finish when they were being sold before they discontinued them, they probably would have kept them there to this day because it would have went with the new look of the place. Yeah, last time I filmed them running, I remember the front one was going faster than medium but slower than the typical high speed. But now that I'm seeing this one on medium, they were definitely both on the high speed. Now neither of them I've oiled, but I kind of like spun them a bit by hand just to see if it'd free them up, and it actually kind of worked, especially with the first one. The bearings on this one were already less stiff than the other one anyway, so I didn't really have to do much with this one. All right, now for high. Now they've always, I know they wobbled a bit when they were still installed. Yeah, but I do have a lot of memories of these fans. I mean, they were installed like, I kind of consider them being installed like during my preteen-ish years. But I mean, they've been around for the life of this channel basically. So I mean, they were already 5 years old at the time when the channel started. But I mean, these are just fans I remember seeing them get put in. So well, I didn't see them being installed. Like I remember when he had them there and such. But they definitely did better than what they replaced, and what's there now. I definitely can say these perform a little bit better, but they did want to change them out at some point. So I figured, since I've wanted these since they're childhood fans, I figured I'd swap them. I mean, the new ones that are there, they don't perform bad, but these definitely performed a bit better. Problem is they were looking a bit worn out and grimy looking after being in the restaurant for 15 years, so it was definitely time for a change. And that's to say, like with restaurants, you definitely want to have them looking in good shape and such, because it's a food place, so you don't want stuff looking like they're worn out and dirty and all that, because that's where people eat and such. And the other thing is, they're white fans, and that's just not the best choice for a restaurant. I know it's like they're in the area where the kitchen's not like right there, but with these fans, it was kind of the case, unfortunately. I mean, that's kind of the case with a lot of diners, anyways. So, well, so they kind of are up front with them and such, with the stove and the kitchen. Definitely feeling a better breeze from this one compared to the other one. I can say it is going a tiny bit faster. Alright, I'll shut it off and you spin down, and then I'll show it on reverse. I actually haven't done a spin it on it, this one, before the video. So I'm actually kind of curious to see how much longer this one lasts compared to the other one. The other one had like a spin down of just like a minute at most. This one I think it might be 2 minutes, that's just my guess. And the reason why I know this one definitely does not have that one, it's not going to have a long spin down, is because I remember seeing these being turned on and off at times. And I remember them not having the longest spin down to begin with. Like not lasting over 2 to 3 minutes. But this one actually could have a 2 minute spin down, a lot more. Who knows? I mean, it is in better shape mechanically out of the two, so it could surprise me. Now, whenever I get my own place, I've always contemplated what fans I'd put in the garage, like an insulated one. And since the fans that usually place ended up in the garage, I feel like it'd only be fitting that these two end up in the garage as well. I mean, they'll do well. They're childhood fans, and they're both white. And I've always like seen white builder-looking fans in garages in the house and such. I do an industrial, but I don't know. It also depends how old the ceilings are too, and that's just it. Well, it definitely does have quite a bit of a longer. The spin down on this one is definitely longer than the other one, without a question. And it is like taking its sweet times coming to complete stop, whereas the other one kind of comes more to an abrupt spot and such at the end of it spinning down. So yeah, definitely a better spin down on this one. But it was expected, so yeah. Now for reverse. And like I said with the other one, I do want to show this one with the bleached oak blades at some point. The thing is, they are kind of warped downwards a bit from when they were off, like in the fall and winter times. Or basically whenever it was too cold to use them, really. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get them to bend back the other direction, and then I'll show them with the bleached oak blades. Though they are kind of worn out. Like, I know this one has a scratch running across one of them. And they were actually already kind of worn looking from all degrees. I've never even cleaned on the top over the years, so they're not going to look that nice to begin with. But since they are the original blades I want for these, I'd rather use them instead of finding a different set of blades to use on them. There is the Remington 4 in white that I got that I could borrow the blades from, but I'd rather just use these ones and such. It's funny, because while they were at the diner, I never noticed the bearing sound to either of them. I never really could hear it anyway, so yeah. Alright, now to move it up to high on reverse. Oh, interesting how this one's wobbling quite a bit on reverse, when it didn't really have too much of a wobble on downdraft or forward. They never did really reverse these from what I can remember, so yeah. So yeah, and that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for more videos to come.